Good afternoon, my conscious co-creators. Welcome to another edition of the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. And of course, a fire truck is going right by my window right when we start the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to this week's show. By the way, did you get a chance to catch last week's show on Awakening Dynamics? It was a really good show with Brent Michael Phillips. And if you by any chance, if you missed it, please go to talkradio.nyc and go to the Conscious Consultant Hour and take a listen to it. It was a really good show. Really liked him. I think you might get something out of it. Today, I've got another wonderful guest who I'll bring on in just a moment. But first, of course, we have the little section from my book, Everyday Awakening. And let's start with that right now. So this section of my book is entitled Silence is Golden Because of the Great Value in It. I think rather apropos for my guest today. We often search for information in words, actions, movement, and whatever other activity is taking place. When we do this, we miss the abundance of information in the silence. There's a great deal to learn from silence, from how people show up in silence, from how things feel in the silence of the gap. That little moment between words and responses, between action and reaction, we can learn so much. Is there any nervousness in the air? Is there a tension, a pressure, or something pushing back in the silence? Is there an ease, a flow, an openness, a spaciousness in the silence? When we rush to fill in that space, we miss what that space is telling us. How can we learn to pay attention to the silence? Wait. Practice waiting to respond or react. Take a breath and feel into the moment. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What is arising within us in the moment? Silence is golden because there is such great value in it. I wrote this section quite a while ago. And it came kind of after, I think I was in a ceremony or I was in a seminar or something. And I remember the facilitator was sort of practicing giving space to the moment, taking time. And you could look around the room and you could see people were a little uncomfortable with the silence in between. And so the facilitator, being someone who was extremely present to what was going on in the room, addressed it, even though nobody said anything. And they talked about silence and how much is there and present in the silence. And I believe we actually even did an exercise where we would pair up and be silent with each other. And they had us just notice what was the feeling around it. What were we not just seeing, but feeling? And what were we picking up from the other person in the silence? And then we'd share it. And then when we came back together in the group, it was like, okay, now kind of share with the group, what did you get? And then they would ask the other person who we were paired with, well, how accurate was that? And it was kind of interesting how usually the first couple of things people would say were not accurate at all because we were still getting used to the silence. But the further we went along, oh, and then I felt this, oh, and then I felt that, oh, and then and then at the end, I kind of got a little something this, like those tend to be a little more accurate. Those tended to be like, the other person would be like, oh yeah, like that's really true. And so for me, it was such an interesting lesson about how uncomfortable we are with silence. And I notice it sometimes, especially if I'm doing group work or I'm working with a group, and I very purposefully and mindfully will say something and then be silent for a while and wait. And inevitably someone might raise their hand or say something because they just couldn't hold the silence. And so I found that to be a very useful tool. And it's just, the more I practice presence, the more I learn to just be with someone without saying anything, without having to fill up the space with something, the more I learn. And the more I relate this to people, the more I see they kind of get it. And they actually learn, like, oh yeah, like there was a lot in there I didn't notice before. And these days we live in such a distracted society. I mean, we're constantly on our phones, right? We're always checking something that, even if we're being silent, we're still being distracted. We're not really being present to the present moment. So because I know, like, that's the environment, that's what we normally see, and that's normally where we are, that it's so much more important to be present, to give space to what there is right in front of us. And so what I would say to each of you as you're going through your day, as you're going through your week, give a little silence, especially when you're in a conversation with someone. Just give a little time and be present to what you're feeling in the moment. And maybe reflect it back to the other person. Oh, I feel like there's something going on that's not being talked about. Is there something on your mind? Or, oh, you seem a little tired today, or did you not sleep well last night? Or maybe it's just, oh, you seem a little nervous. Is there something on your mind? You'd be amazed at how, as we develop this skill and this practice, people will think you're a mind reader, because they're so used to people not being present with them, that merely by noticing what's going on in the moment without saying anything, you'll pick up so much about them that when you reflect it back to them, they'll feel so seen and so heard. It's kind of funny. We tend to think being a great communicator is all about what we say. Actually, it's not. It's actually what we don't say. It's actually when we hold ourselves from talking that we really learn what communication is all about. So that's my section from my book, Everyday Awakening. And the title of that section is Silence is Golden Because of the Great Value in It. Why don't you ponder on that for the coming week until next week? And again, of course, you can get my book at www.everydayawakeningbook.com, which will take you right to the listing on Amazon. And if you're like me, though, and you'd like to support small local bookstores, just go to them and ask them to order it for you. We're in major distributors, so pretty much any bookstore can order it for you. Just ask them for Everyday Awakening by Sam Leibowitz. So hope you enjoyed that. I hope that little section speaks to you and that you've got a little something from that. Ooh, I see on the live stream, loyal listener Patty is listening and tuning in. Thank you, Patty. As always, it's a pleasure to see you. I'm wondering if she's in Tucson as she usually is this week. Anyway, so now it is my pleasure to welcome to the show international best-selling author, entrepreneur, speaker, and co-founder Judy V. At the age of 15, Judy had the first of a number of extraordinary, transcendent experiences that gave her insight into the extraordinariness of who we are, that we are so much more than our mortal bodies and can access the universal intelligence of infinite knowledge and potentially through being in our feminine energy. Today, Judy is an international best-selling author, award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, and co-founder of Tribe of Traders, and creator of the Trilogy of Transformation and the Attune to Prosperity brand. Over the past 20 years, Judy has built and sold numerous multi-million-dollar businesses in many categories, including starting the first ever online coaching business in 2000. Judy has studied and researched human potential for over 20 years. Judy overcame the most extraordinary challenge of being locked up throughout her childhood, until she escaped in her early 20s to go on to create massively successful businesses. Welcome to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Judy. How are you doing today?
I am great. Thank you so much. It's so good to be here, Sam. Finally, it's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So this is something I didn't know about you. You were locked up. I mean, like literally your parents didn't put you away in a closet or something?
Yeah, it was my father, and I was taken away and pretty much for most of my life from the age of very young, about 3 or so, until I escaped. It's an extremely tragic part of my life, but it's not my story, if you know what I mean. So there was a lot of torture, a lot of abuse, a lot of horrendous stuff that happened. And when I did escape, I had to learn to integrate with society, which, as you can imagine, was quite a challenge in my early 20s. So
yeah. I always find it quite fascinating that some of the most spiritual people I know have suffered some of the most horrendous trauma early in life. Because you would think someone like yourself who's experienced so much hurt and pain early in your life, that you'd come out bitter and vengeful and just like hate people because of what you've been through. Yet you've kind of turned that around and you've turned it into something quite beautiful in a way.
Yeah, it's what I say. It's my story is not that. My story is a story of love, unconditional love. And everything I live, everything I've experienced tells me that that's the truth. And that is, it's about who we are in the moment and what we create in the next moment. And that's my focus. And I was extraordinarily blessed as a child to have these supernatural experiences that gave me insight into the truth of who we are as humanity and the power that we have to create.
I'm just wondering, could you maybe share one of those experiences just to give our audience an idea of what it was that you experienced that allowed you to be able to see sort of past just what was right in front of you?
Yeah, so when I was about one of the most profound ones was when I was about 15 years old, and I literally was alive because my heart beat. I felt like a piece of meat. I was just flat. It was just it was like every night I willed that my heart would stop beating, that I wouldn't wake up the next morning, because I just felt I couldn't take any more. And it had been 12 hours of abuse and torture nonstop. And it was early morning. It was about 7 a.m. It was in Ireland. I know it was November. It was cold and wet. And I walked into the bathroom, and as I walked over to the hand basin, I looked in the mirror, and it's the first time I actually remember seeing myself. Now, I'm sure I saw myself plenty of times, but it's the first time I actually consciously became aware of myself. And as I looked closer into my eyes, it was almost like I was reaching into inside of me, looking beyond my physical form, beyond the bruises and the tears on my pale, threadbare nightie and all those things, but reached deep down. And I remember clutching something in my solar plexus. And for years after that, I called it my something, which over the years I've learned was my heart, my soul, my spirit. And in that moment, I was transcended beyond, out of my body, and I was outside. And despite the fact that it was November, it was cold, it was wet, I wasn't cold, it was the most comfortable, most natural, most normal, most warm experience. And I remember feeling this oneness with everything, one with the trees, one with the rain on the window, one with the birds, one with the grass that I think was being cut. I could smell it in the distance. Oneness with everything. And then I remember feeling this unbelievable blanketing of this feeling that was surreal, that was not of this world, which I realized was just pure unconditional love. And in that moment, as I felt it, I looked up and I could see me, this girl standing in front of the mirror, and it still touches me to this day. And it's so many years ago. In that moment, I healed. It was divine love I was experiencing in this world of the senses. And in that moment, I healed for everything I had been through, everything I was going through, and everything I was yet to go through. And I not only did I heal, but I experienced the greatest, most profound depth of compassion for all of the abusers that I had experienced in my life up to that point, because there were more than one. So, and the most extraordinary compassion for that. And then the next part that I recall is just seeing the unified field, seeing the primordial field of everything. In oneness, there is everything. And in this space, I could see all the possibilities and the potentialities that I would create in my life. And it was almost like I planted 3 seeds in that moment. And it was love, prosperity, and adventure. At the time, I didn't call it prosperity because I didn't have that lingo. I was uneducated. But I knew that in that moment, it would be luxury, which I now rather called prosperity. And I knew that would be my life. I knew I would escape, and those would be my experiences in life. And that has been my experience of life.
Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. We're a little over time. Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's find out, how did you get from that 20-year-old who escaped to a woman who is built several multi-million-dollar businesses? Okay. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We do this every Thursday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. Eastern time, right here on talkradio.nyc, and Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on KMET in Palm Springs, California. And we'll be right back in just a moment.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business, or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
And welcome back to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. We're speaking this hour with Judy V, creator of Attune to Prosperity. So Judy, for the first, you said about 20 years of your life, you were captive, you were abused. Really a horrendous beginning to life. And then you finally escaped. How did you go from being this person who was kept in captivity for so long, like into, being able to support yourself and create businesses and kind of thrive from there? That's quite a journey.
Yeah. So if I can, Sam, just take a moment to just go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
at the end of that experience that I was having, where I experienced that healing, experienced that you could see the infinite possibilities and potentialities of how my life would unfold. And I sort of, when I came back into my body, I remember walking out of the bathroom, and I remember knowing that you can hurt my body, but no one and nothing could ever touch my soul. My soul's eternal, my body is mortal. And that knowing was extraordinary. It was the all, it was everything. And here's something I knew, as before I even walked out the bathroom, I knew without doubt I would escape. I knew it. I didn't know when, but I wasn't concerned with that, because when you experience that oneness and when you experience the everything in the unified field, you learn that our understanding of time and linear time is an illusion, because everything is now. So I wasn't attached to when, I just knew I would escape. And I knew that when I escaped, I would get work in one of three areas. And this is really, really weird and really extraordinary, because when you consider the context of the spiritual experience I just had, I knew I would get work in merchant banking, stockbroking, or oil and gas, or shipping. I knew I would get work in that area. Now, I didn't have a clue what merchant banking was. I had no idea what shipping. I didn't even know what the word logistics existed. That's how unaware I was. And oil and gas, I was like, other than the oil that you fill up to heat your radiators, I knew nothing about it, but I just knew I would be in that. So in the next number of years, it took another 6 years before I did escape. Okay. Six and a half years. And in the next years, though, although the torture, the pain, the agony, the abuse, the physical and mental and emotional, the drugging, all the things kept happening. But inside, I was in heaven, and nothing and no one could take that. I had my connection to my soul, to the divine within, and I prepared myself for when I escaped. I started studying, I started learning, I started exploring, I started tapping into the infinite wisdom of the universe, the knowledge of the universe. I started downloading the information and started preparing myself. And I did escape. And when I escaped in the middle of the night, again, it was in November, and in the middle of the night, I escaped with nothing, a small packet of really old tattered clothes, a copy of Wuthering Heights, and a painting I had done of my cat. That's it. That's all I had, is that when I escaped. And within 1 week, within a couple of days, I was in London. I arrived in London on a Friday night, 8 p.m., landed at Heathrow, knew no one and nothing, in the rain in November. Within 1 week, I had 2 job offers, almost earning almost 6 figures.
Wow.
Within 1 week. And those 2 job offers, one was shipping and one was oil and gas, as the trading accountant on an oil and gas trading floor. Wow. Within 1 week. That is not the realm of this 3D world of the senses that we live in. That is a divine, that is being guided from within connected to soul with divine guidance. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning. From there, I lived for many, many years in what I call the field of potentiality. Because as horrendous as my experiences had been, remember, I wasn't integrated into society. So therefore, I didn't get the societal norms or the conditioning and the programming that the normal people would get going to school and connecting with friends and peers and all of those experiences. I didn't have that. So for me, the concept of you can't do it wasn't in my awareness.
Interesting.
Not there, and I felt a desire to do something. I went to do it, and the more I did, the more I explored, the more I learned, the more I experienced, the more there was, and the more I did, and the more I experienced, and it's just like it was just an infinite world of possibilities and potentiality. There was no limit.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. So you probably also like, you weren't versed in like the social cues and the normal stuff around dating and all that kinds of stuff, but you also didn't have the limitations. You didn't have the preconceptions about what you can and can't do. So there was a certain freedom in that. But I also imagine that there must have been situations that were uncomfortable or difficult to manage just because you didn't have sort of a normal childhood.
Yeah, I never felt like I fit in. I never felt like people understood me and I didn't understand people. So, yeah.
Right. So we just got a little time before our next break. So I'm just curious, like, once you got that job and you started working, like, what was it like learning to do business, learning to do trading and all this stuff? Was it something that just because of your experience, you were just open to it, so you were able to like get into it quickly? Was it challenging? Did it take a lot of effort or work on the side to really get up to speed?
No, it didn't, because it really didn't. Because when you're guided, we all have that access. All of us, every one of us has that access. And no, my work I never found hard. What I found difficult and challenging was connecting with people and doing what was, playing the political game, which is that was the extraordinary, that was the challenging part. That was the bit that was, because I didn't fit in, as you can imagine. I didn't play the corporate role. I didn't play nicely in the sandpit, so to speak. So I stood out like that. But the work-wise was never an issue.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. So we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, let's talk about like what got you to finally sort of jump ship from working in the corporate world to like starting your own business and starting to do your own thing. And what was that transition like? Okay.
Very good. Awesome.
Wonderful. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. My guest this hour is Judy V, and we will be right back in just a moment.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauber, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
And welcome back. So, Judy, we were talking about how you got into the world of business, and you know, I guess your guidance really helped you to flow with that pretty easily, but there was sort of the social side of stuff was a little more challenging. What eventually got you to jump ship and say, you know what, I don't want to work for someone else anymore. I want to work for myself?
This is a funny story, actually, because after 10 months of being in that first job as a trading accountant, I was fired. Not because I couldn't do the work, but because I wouldn't play in the sandpit. So they paid me a lot of money to go quietly. And literally, as I walked out the door, I could hear the collective sigh of relief. Oh, thank goodness she's gone. So and here's an interesting thing is that I didn't have the baggage that people would typically have about being fired. I just thought, oh, that's interesting. I didn't apply meaning to it. I didn't start doubting myself. I was like, okay, that's interesting. All right, thanks. I'll take the money. All right, next. And I moved forward. My whole focus was on what's next, what's moving forward. None of it, not a moment was spent on wasting time and what happened, but it was always about focusing forward. And I got another job in an oil and gas company, and equally well paid. And after 10 months, I was fired again. And for the same thing, but handsomely paid nonetheless. And then in that time, this was in the early 90s, in that time, I'd always had a draw from as early as I could remember to go to South Africa. But in that time, I was feeling reluctant to go because of the whole apartheid story and that. But then Nelson Mandela was freed and apartheid was abolished and all this sort of stuff. And then I knew that I need to go to South Africa, and I went to South Africa. And I got another job in South Africa, and after 10 months I was fired again. And this happened a few times, and I'll never forget walking out of the last corporate job I had, and each time being paid. It was almost like a career, being paid to leave, right? And I'll never forget walking out the last time, and I was looking up at Table Mountain in Cape Town. The sun was behind it, setting behind it. And I remember looking up and I'm thinking, what now? What's the plan? And I got this message, this voice in my head, do your own thing. Okay, do my own thing. And ever since then, I've been doing my own thing.
And how long ago was that?
That was like 95, about.
So that's like a good 28 years ago, so almost 30 years.
So I've done my own thing, literally. I've done many different businesses and so many different categories, and all of them being driven by, all of them have a golden thread. And this is the interesting thing, that we are here for a purpose, we're here for a reason, and our life demonstrates what that is. And for me, my number one value, and our number one values tend to come from the voids we experience as children. And my number one value is being empowered and empowering others. So if I look back over my life since I escaped, all of my focus has always been on empowering others. So as you can imagine, in a corporate environment, that's not what the main focus is, right? But everything I was doing was more about that, was more aligned with that. So, and I look at all the businesses that I started and created. It was all about empowerment, empowering people emotionally, mentally, financially. And so that has been the evolution of my work until I realized that, to powerfully help me in this work is to understand more. So I got into researching and studying and understanding did I experience in the context of the greater, my greater journey, and then going even deeper on it, like what is the context of what I experienced, and not only in terms of this lifetime, but beyond, in multiple lifetimes and across all dimensions. And that's the work that I have been researching and studying, and that's what my PhD is on.
Wonderful. So tell us, what is the Trilogy of Transformation, and then we'll get into Attune to Prosperity.
Well, Trilogy of Transformation is a process that I have created that allows us to free our body, free ourselves, free our ego, free our body from the conditions of the perceptions and the programming that we've experienced through our lifetime. So, like, for example, so much of our life is occupied on past experiences, and therefore all of our decisions, our state of being is based on everything that we've perceived and judged and conditioned ourselves
and created a story around
100% about the past, when in actual fact there's, everything has been for us, nothing is to us, but we are conditioned to not think that way. The way this Newtonian world works is that everything happens to us,
right.
and that we are separate from everything. But the Trilogy of Transformation is a process that I work with people to take them through the process to see how, in actual fact, there is no separation. The separation is an illusion. And that's where we get to the 3 levels to the Trilogy of Transformation, what I call charge, capitalize, and champion your challenges. Because everything that we've experienced that's created discomfort or hurt or pain has therefore is an opportunity for incredible growth, integration, and a jump point to our higher timeline, to a higher path of least resistance. And then you'll always see that what you've gained is what you can then use in your life to capitalize, monetize, whatever. It doesn't have to be just you see the ways in which it has served you so powerfully that you put a hand on your heart and you thank the divine, you thank your higher self, you thank yourself, you have gratitude for yourself for the experience, because you can see how it has powerfully served you. And then on to champion your challenges, where you unlock the miracle code, where you start to master the brilliance that we are, the creators that we are, where we create in the energetic realm of the unified field. That's where we create and we experience in this world of the senses, in this 3D world. We are here to experience, not create. We create in the higher realms. And this is why I think I'm so privileged to be here as a guest with you today, with your opening chapter of your book about silence.
Yeah.
Because when we are constantly in our analytical mind, we're in the beta, we're in high beta, we're in stress. You can't create when we're in this constant need for distraction, like the phone, talking, doing whatever it is. That's all distraction. That's feeding the conditioning of the body, where we are activating our stress hormones, where we are constantly in a state of stress, and we're in therefore a state of survival. And you can't create, and you just perpetuate the same drama.
Right.
When you go into silence, you go into alpha, that calm state of creation. Sorry, interrupt you.
No. It's fine. I'm just curious about, you kind of answered it, but I was going to say, like, we all want to create, right? We all want to be prosperous. We all want to have a good life, but it sometimes even feels that we almost unconsciously resist it, right? It's almost like we sabotage ourselves without even knowing it to have the life that we want. And I'm just curious why you think that is.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because we would rather guarantee failure than gamble success. We would rather guarantee more of the known because we're comfortable in that. Because when we are in beta all the time, constantly distracted, looking outside of us all of the time, being controlled by our environment outside of us rather than from within, being pulled in every which way, in every which direction, your body, your nervous system is activated and is in stress. Therefore is in survival. Therefore, it can only ever see that which it is known, that which is based on what we know we can survive, even if it's more of the same hell that we don't want. So in order to create, we have to break the habit of that addiction to the past and go into a space of the unknown, trust the unknown, trust the unpredictable. That's where we create, that's where magic happens, and that's the miracle zone. That's where you decrease the time between cause and effect. You collapse time and you create instantaneous manifestations.
Yeah, it's kind of almost opposite, right? We're sort of almost programmed to fear the unknown, right?
Yes.
Because we're so, and I remember having this experience in a ceremony once where I sensed that oneness, and I had this feeling of like, it was such joy and ecstasy. And I'm like, oh, this is what we go back to when we die. It's like, what are we so afraid of? What are we so scared of? But most people don't have that experience. So that unknown, that the death being the ultimate unknown, is such a scary thing to us, but it's actually a very beautiful thing. But without experiencing it, without having some sense of what it's like to touch that, it's very hard to get that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And because I have three sort of foundational principles, I suppose, or concepts that I work within. One is we are one with everything. We are one with the universe, one with the divine. We have a direct line to source. Two, as such, we have direct knowing. We are all knowing. We have access to infinite knowledge across all dimensions. And three, anything and everything that we perceive as obstacles, blocks, or challenges in our life is feedback from our higher self, from our soul, from our oversoul, to take the journey back home to bliss, to joy, back home to the truth of who we are. It's a journey back home. And that's the creation. That's where we create. And it's counterintuitive because we are conditioned to do more, to fight more, to compete more, to hurry more, to stress more. And that all that does, it creates what I call, it creates treacle in life. It's where you become the leaf in the wind of life rather than the hurricane in your life.
Yeah. And we're seeing it more and more, where I believe people are finally like waking up to it, that like competition doesn't work. Like competition is not the most effective way to build something. That actually, when we're in cooperation with others, when we're working together, we can achieve so much more. And that by working together, we're actually more effective, more efficient. We go further, faster, quicker. And that when we can drop this idea, and I was having this conversation with someone the other day, like, you know, it's almost like even from the time we're kids, when we have sports teams, right? Whenever you're engaged in sports, there's always a winner and a loser. And that tends to breed this malady of competition into our nervous system. Whereas in fact, when you play infinite games instead of zero-sum games, by working together, we create more, and everyone's a winner and no one's a loser.
Yeah, we have the keys to heaven on earth. So that bliss that we see, that you spoke about, in terms of the next journey beyond this lifetime, we can experience in this lifetime. Really? And that's our birthright. That's why we are here. We are here to be the aligned projection of our soul, to experience in this 3D world that which our soul is. And our soul is pure, our soul is beautiful, our soul is sacred. Yeah. It is joy and it's bliss, and it is ecstasy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I got to take the last break of our show. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Attune to Prosperity, and then I'm wondering if maybe you can give our audience some tips or some practices that can help them when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling worried about money and prosperity and survival, basically. Okay, Judy?
Yep, sounds good.
Wonderful. So everyone, please stay tuned. You're listening to the Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity. And don't forget, if you missed any part of today's show, you can always catch the replay on talkradio.nyc and on all the major podcasting platforms: Apple, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere. So please, and if you're enjoying this conversation, please share it with your friends. We will be right back with Judy V to finish up the show in just a moment.
Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be Frank About Health to advocate for all of us.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
And welcome back. So, Judy, as we finish up the show, let's talk real quickly about Attune to Prosperity. What is that program all about?
Well, it's a brand that I started a little while ago, and it's a reminder for us all to attune to prosperity. Because we, because of the conditioning in our body, because of the way in which we are programmed, because of the perceptions that we have about how to navigate this 3D world, we naturally attune to all things lack, all things separate. So Attune to Prosperity is a brand that I started some time ago as a reminder for every one of us to attune, to consciously, intentionally attune to prosperity. Because wherever you put your energy, where you put your focus, that's what you're going to create. The moment you're attuning to all of the things that are lack, all the things that you're perceiving as separate, that's what you're going to be creating more of. Now, when you attune to prosperity, and that is your state of being, you understand the truth about abundance. And this is the big thing that I've experienced and what I've learned is that when we talk about abundance, it's become somewhat a cliche. Yeah, abundance. But hold on a second. Do you understand what abundance truly, honestly means? When you can, and this is something that might sound obvious, but when you think about it, when you take some time in silence and you think about it, when you think about abundance, abundance means infinite. It's ever flowing. Think about it in context of waves. Have you ever been somewhere or slept near the sea or near a beach and just heard the waves and really felt the consistency of those waves? It's abundance. They've always done that. They always will. There's just an ever flow of abundance. And that is everything in life. When I have learned that when we truly understand and master the concept of abundance, we can then create prosperity in our life from that. And that's why Attune to Prosperity is so important. When that is our state of being, when we are able to maintain that energy, no matter what is happening in our life, that is when we start to experience the truth about abundance, that everything is infinite and we are one. There is no separation. So this is not about positive thinking. This is not about, I am a millionaire, but yet you open your bank statement and you're in debt. This is not about that. It is about being, who are you as that millionaire that you desire? It's the beingness of that. When you have created it in the field, in the energetic, when you created it, when you created the blueprint of that, in the truth of who you are energetically, because remember, 99.99999% of us is nothing.
Right.
It's just nothing. It's space.
Yeah.
Which we now know is information. That is information that we can connect with, like you were talking about in silence.
Right.
Silence is filled with information.
Right.
That we can tune into. We can tune into it. When we energetically tune into it, we can tap into the blueprint of that desire. And then when we feel it, that's what we do with our brain. We set a clear intention. It's the electric broadcast that we are. We are broadcasters. When we are broadcasting that clear intention, and then we marry that with our magnetic sacred heart, right? And that is your state of being, attuning to that prosperity, attuning to the desire, being that, and not being influenced by anything that's going on in the environment. That's an addiction we have to break, because the body will always try and pull you back to the known.
Right.
And that is the work. It's that journey back to wholeness, journey back to truth, back to who we are. And that's the work that creates the magic and the prosperity, the love, the health, the wealth, everything in our life that allows us to live an iconic life where miracles, both material and mystical, become a daily experience for us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. But, you touched upon something which I would love to explore just a little bit more, if we can maybe help our audience, because when we live in a world where there's so much talk about recession, inflation is going through the roof, whole industries are getting disrupted right now because of robots and AI and just, change in consumer habits. So when you're somebody who's like not in the greatest environment, maybe you're working at a job where your boss is a lunatic and giving you a hard time, you don't feel supported. Like, how do you tap into that feeling of abundance? How do you tap into that infinite side of yourself when you're sort of stressed out and you've got all this information around you that kind of says you're not abundant?
Yeah. So it's truth, and it's the truth for so many people at the moment, and it is a very hard and challenging time to do it. So this journey, there's no way around it but through it. So it means we have to take time out. We have to just break the pattern of our addiction to more of that, because there's so much of it, we're drawn to more of it. Stop with the news, put your phone down, don't bring it to bed with you. Meditate, stillness, mindfulness. Stop allowing your body to unconsciously control you, because that's what we do. Because we're in high beta, because we're in beta or high beta, what we are doing, we're in survival. And the more in survival we are, the more known we need. Even if we know in our heart and soul it's not good for us, we would rather do it because it's known. We know we've survived it before. We know we've been through it before. It's familiar. We need to break that habit. And the way we break that habit is by doing something different. And it's uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. That's what I call about the rapids. You're in the rapids in that change, and there's no way around it but through it. And when we go through it to the other side, our environment changes and everything changes, and what we become aware of changes. So to get in, to do that, we have to break the habit of our unconscious or our subconscious mind, and break the habit of our body. And we need to meditate. We need to take time out, take more control, be more conscious, be more intentional. And one of the things that really helps my clients is, what is your intention right now? What is it? What is it? Just the one thing. What is it? And focus all of your effort and your attention on that in abundance. Attune to the prosperity of that in abundance. Yes, you know what? You'll get knocked off. And at the end of the day, journal on it, write about it. How well did I do today? Not how bad. How well did I do today? And how can I do it better tomorrow? And if that is more important to you than anything else on the planet, you will do the work. You will do it. You will connect to the energy of that intention, and you will emotionally feel what it feels like. And you will carry that out into your day, and you will be it. Because you've got one life in this lifetime. Let's master it. Let's make it the best that we can. Let's live an iconic life. That's what we are here for. Not to subordinate to outside environment, but take control and be empowered in our sovereign divinity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I also feel like community is so important in this. Like, find the people who will support you in that venture, like work with other people who are all committed to sort of the same thing. Don't keep hanging out with people who are just going to tear you down and tell you how awful everything is, and just repeat the same things that keep you in this sort of life or death mode in your body.
Yeah, that perpetuates the lack, perpetuates the separateness, perpetuates the story. Stop with the story. Take control. You can be the master of your destiny or victim to your history.
Right.
I choose master of my destiny.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, Judy, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much. If people want to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how would they do that?
I've got a Facebook page, Judy V Prosperity, and you can also do a quiz that I have on the page as well, which is how attuned to prosperity are you? Because there's a direct correlation to how much wealth you have and your levels of consciousness in terms of how attuned to prosperity you are. So it's a free quiz. You can come and do that on my page. And I'm on Instagram as well at Judy V Prosperity.
And the Judy VEE, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's your website too?
It is indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Well, Judy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I wish you much success and much more abundance as we kind of go through life, so you can live as an example to teach the rest of us how to attune to our own prosperity.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Sam. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And of course, thank you, our loyal listeners, for tuning in each week. I really appreciate you. Without you, there is no show. There is no purpose for doing the show. So I hope you've gotten something out of it. If you did, please feel free to comment on our YouTube live, or if you can go to the Facebook page, The Conscious Consultant, or Talk Radio NYC. And next week, I have another wonderful woman coming on my show, Radhavi Ram, who's an indigenous spiritual healer. Again, talking all about sort of healing and coming into alignment with our soul. Sense a theme here for this month, don't we? So I hope you're getting a lot out of this. Thank you so much. Thank you all. We appreciate you. We will talk to you all next week.